welcome back to Drop or Not. Just finished editing down the previous two episodes, so I know this is going to be the start of episode 3, so I can give a proper introduction, but things seem to be going well so far, and we're going to be jumping right into it with Mahou Shoujo Ore. Alrighty, I finished the first episode of Mahou Shoujo Ore, and I'm pretty mixed. So I'll admit, I liked it a lot more than I was expecting it to. I was not expecting to like it really much at all, based on what I had seen of the show going into it. Because it seemed like one of those shows that was going to be, well, we have this one gimmick, and that's the entire joke. It's just we have one gimmick, and that's it. That's why I didn't really like Assassination Classroom or what's that other show, the Food Wars. Like, it just felt like there was one joke, and they just kept telling it again and again, and I didn't even find it all that funny in the first place. So it kind of lost me pretty quickly. Whereas with this, it felt like there was a nice, like, general comedic vibe to things. There was a lot of jokes throughout. And I particularly liked the earlier section, like mostly the first half of the episode prior to the magical girl stuff was actually more funny. Just because the characters, I like the main character. I think she's pretty comedic. And the voice actor, I'll have to look it up. Maybe I'll put it on screen if I remember. But I really like her voice actor. It reminds me a lot of Lucky Star. I wonder if it's the same voice actor. But generally, like, it gives me the similar feeling to Lucky Star. Of course, not as good, but still pretty solid. And visually, it's got some nice gags. I think my biggest problem is like at first I like the soundtrack, but there's just times where it feels like the music is just sort of chilling in the background while there's jokes happening, and it's like, come on, you could be contributing to the humor. You could do a little bit more than just being this whatever just track is just like sitting in the background while people make cracks and stuff. Um so yeah, I felt like by the second half it started to get a little dull. Especially all the build up to the obvious, like, it's literally the title of the show and the cover art. We know what's gonna happen, so like all this build up is like feels kind of unnecessary. Especially since a lot of the rest of the show seems to be more about like quick payoff on the jokes, not trying to do this big like long build up or anything. And it's got a pretty like comedic atmosphere to everything, which I appreciate. It's very lighthearted, not taking itself too seriously. That's how I can appreciate the meta humor that's in it, is when meta humor is very like having fun with it. I don't really care for the like the cynicism in meta humor. That I find gets tiring real quick. But this type of like Gekkan Shoujo type of parody, uh, I can really get behind. So we'll see where it goes from here. I might get bored with it, but I think I could have some more fun with this show. So we'll see. To quickly clarify some things before I go on to the next anime, I am skipping Lupin because I just want to start at the beginning. I know it's not like you don't have to watch in order, but I just want to. I'm skipping Site Mahou Shoujo Site because I know I am gonna despise this show. Like, everything I've seen, this is exactly the type of show that I just do not enjoy at all. Major second, obviously. I want to watch the original Major first. So yeah, we're gonna go straight to Megalo Baksu. So I finished episode 1 of Megalo Baksu, and as expected, it was great. I love it. The music, the soundtrack is awesome. The aesthetic is fantastic. Animation looks delightful. Action is really like gets your heart pumping, gets you right into it. The setting is interesting. Characters are fun. I'm just completely sold on this narrative right off the bat. Except for one thing, the robot arms, like, okay, like, we can already like break someone's bone with our fists, like, regularly. Like, we can do serious damage just with fists now. So you have these, like, robot amplification arms. How are you not literally just killing people, like, at the drop of a hat? Like, one blow to the face is just gonna kill someone, isn't it? That's just my one question. But outside of that, yeah, awesome, great, delightful. Really like the soundtrack. It's, groovy, and very, fitting with this type of, like, 90s, like, aesthetic identity it's going for, which it really captures quite well. I mean, I don't have a lot, like, unique stuff to say about it because it's already, like, one of the most talked about shows of the season, probably the most talked about show of the season. Everybody's, like, agrees it's great, it's fun, it's awesome. It's not a very, like, unique or especially interesting opinion, and I'm more interested in finding the shows that are, like, underwatched, or the shows that didn't resonate with me for whatever reason but that resonate with a lot of people. So that's more interesting to hear about, at least in my opinion. That's what I listen to other channels for, is to hear interesting opinions or views on something I don't know about yet. So, but yeah, it's great. I'm looking forward to see more, see how the story progresses, see where it goes. But a really good first episode. Now we've got Nil Admirari no Tenben. Let's see how this one is. Alright, 9 minutes in. Yeah, no. No. Nope. I'm sitting here waiting for something interesting to happen, but nothing interesting is happening. It had a really weird opening sequence, and it's like I almost want to watch more to see, like, what that was all about. And I know they're establishing this, like, sort of, like, calm before the storm. But the thing is, it's just boring. It is genuinely boring. I I find the younger brother is already obnoxious. He's been in, what, 2 scenes? I hate him. I don't even like the main girl. I find her, like, she's just not interesting. Don't really like her design. Don't really like, nothing about her, like, interests me. Nothing about the setting interests me. Even the opening, which was supposed to, like, catch your attention, be like, here's a preview of what's to come, didn't really interest me at all. It just, like, I was just sitting here, I'm like looking for something to latch on to that's, like, I like, but nothing about it. I mean, yeah, it's just all kind of really plain and drab. Yeah. So, gonna have to pass. Alright, before we go on to the next, just want to clarify a few more things. I'm skipping Persona 5, the animation, because from what I've heard, it's pretty, like, straight adaptation. And I really would rather just play the game. I don't know if I'll ever play the game, but that's the experience of Persona that I want to have, is playing the game, rather than watching an adaptation. So, I'm not watching that. And I'm also skipping Piano no Mori, because it's basically like a retelling TV version of, I think, a movie, and I heard better things about the movie. I'd rather watch that, or at least watch it first. I started watching the first episode of this a bit ago, and there was a really bad looking CG sequence that immediately turned me off. So I'm gonna go watch the movie instead and see how that is. So that leaves us with Roku Hodo Yotsu Iro Biori. Feel doubtful that this will really be my speed, but why not? I actually made it pretty far this time. About 15 minutes in, and yeah, I mean, okay, in the first place, probably not the best idea to watch this show while I'm tired and hungry. Also, So, first off, one of the cool things I noticed, there's some actually like genuinely pretty darn good animation cuts just in here. Just like a couple nice, really cool looking, or not cool looking, but just really well animated moments. Um, so that's cool. But this is one of those shows that's just like, I mean, there's nothing, I wouldn't have an issue with watching more, but it's just like a nothing show. Like, if I watched this, like, I probably wouldn't even remember it a month later. It's like, this feels like a show that exists purely just to fill space, and it doesn't feel like like I need to pay attention or like focus or anything, and I don't like that. I have, I understand the desire when you just want to just fill space and you just want something on, but I have YouTube for that. So like when I'm watching anime, I want it to be actually cool and you know have some like required engagement to it. So yeah. All right, with coffee at the ready, let's dive in to Sore de Sumibito wa Ryuto Odoru. All right, I hate to be so mean to this show, but I'm like 3 minutes in, and yeah, I can't do this show. I'm sorry, but look, I hate using the word generic because not that I don't think it doesn't have purpose, but it definitely is a term that like kind of depends on the beholder and doesn't really convey very much information like about what you actually mean or are saying. But like this feels like the anime that would be playing on the TV in another anime as their representation of what the average anime is. That's what it feels like. Like nothing is grabbing me about this whatsoever. Yeah, I'm I'm just completely like it's already left me disinterested. The settings not nothing about it grabs me in any way whatsoever. And I'm looking at it, I'm like I can't see this going anywhere that would be of interest to me personally. So, yeah. All right, Shan Pin Jiting, I think. I'm not quite sure how this one is pronounced. But yeah, let's go. All right, I finished the first episode of Shan Pin Jiting, and it was surprisingly good. I wasn't really expecting it to be that enjoyable. Um, Maybe it's just because I took a few days break from doing this watch or not. So, and I went and watched some older anime, to break things up, change pace. Um, that might be it, but yeah, I had fun with it. It's very, like, the aesthetic is very, very PA works, like, especially the way they do the eyes and the shading, just the character designs and the color palette. It's very PA works. Um, but what's particularly interesting is the camera work in this one. The camera's like really active. Like there's a lot of like shots where the camera is like moving around. It's like very much trying to emulate that feeling of like a dynamic camera in a live action show. Like there's lots of scenes where the camera is moving into the scene or like panning around like following the eyes of the character or areas where the camera changes but it uses like a zoom or something like that to smooth the cut between angles. It's very interesting. I haven't seen. It's not very common. And there's another interesting element is that they use motion blur a lot, and just like another thing, like you don't see effects still aren't. They're getting more common, but they're still not super common in anime. A lot of effects work, and this one has quite a lot of like blur throughout for like depth of field and stuff, which is interesting. I don't know if I like really like it, but it's interesting. It's something neat. and unique. And overall, this was a pretty sweet episode. I really liked the tree girl. Um, and we have this whole, like, basically stories, like, you have this whole, like, monster family that's, like, the result of they have mad scientist parents who get locked up. I think that what it was teasing in the episode is that the parents have escaped. And of course, the youngest son is sort of like he's like become the parental figure because he's the only one who hasn't been altered by experiments. And so everybody else is kind of like a little bit crazy, except for him. He's sort of like taking care of them all. And so they're like this really amusing dysfunctional family. And it's genuinely pretty like I like the dynamic between the family. It's it's fun to watch. All the characters are fun. Um, it did push it a little bit when it was trying to really go for a lot of the heartfelt moments. I was like, okay, calm down. You haven't really earned this yet. Like it's only one episode in. Like I didn't feel it really earned the emotional payoff it was going for at the climax of this episode. Um, but yeah, it was a good time. Oh, one other interesting thing, there was also a flashback sequence that was done all in this really nice watercolor style. Sort of like the opening sequences in Usagi Drop. That was nice. I liked it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing more at a later date. Next. Alright, the big kahuna, Steins Gate Zero. Let's go. Alright, I watched episode 1 of Steins Gate Zero. And I don't really know how I feel about it. I'm kind of lukewarm. There was stuff I liked, but I feel my experience was diminished by the fact that it's been so long since I watched Steins Gate that it's like picking up the pieces, like where this narrative is, since it's an alternate timeline. I felt a little bit lost. I was like, wait, what's happening again? I think I kind of, before I finish this one, I mean, it's still airing in its 2 cours, so I wouldn't be finishing it for a while anyways. But I really need to just go back and rewatch Steins Gate before I watch this. And then I can give it a more fair judgment. Outside of that, though, has Daru's voice always been that insufferable? Like, did I just now notice that his voice is, like, really obnoxious? Maybe intentional, but wow. Visually, I thought it was, like, not very good looking. And just on a moment-to-moment basis, I was generally kind of, like, not really feeling it. I felt like a lot of the moments that were meant to have impact really missed the mark. And again, this might just be a result of like being so disconnected from Steins Gate for so long, but I do feel like the presentation was left something to be desired. But I mean, there was some good dialogue, some good lines here and there. I mean, particularly the legal lolies line, like I audibly chuckled. It was amusing. That like really, that moment I was like, yeah, that's like the Steins Gate I remember. There was stuff like that. So we'll see where this goes. I'm skeptical. I'll say that, but I'm skeptical but intrigued. So we'll leave that for future. Next. Wow, this camera looks so much better when there's actually good lighting. Alright, future core here. I just wanted to clarify or give a secondary thing. I wanted to say this when I was talking about Steins Gate, but I just forgot while I was talking and went off to an entirely unrelated point. But one of the things I wanted to say
And was the reason I felt kind of tepid about the whole thing, even though I didn't dislike it, and I think like thinking back on it now, maybe I was a little harsher than I should have been. I think it was generally pretty well executed episode. Part of my issue is I just don't really feel the need for it to exist. Which I mean, I know that's pretty harsh. Everything has. I'm not saying anything like shouldn't exist or doesn't have the right, but in my personal feeling, it's like I just have no desire or need for more Steins Gate story. Like Steins Gate is a really well crafted narrative that resolves itself perfectly, and is really satisfying. So if I wanted Steins Gate again, I would just go rewatch Steins Gate. And that's kind of what this show, like I kept mentioning, oh, really feel like I have to rewatch Steins Gate to fully appreciate this. And I agree with that to some extent, but I also feel like part of that emotion is just like I would rather be rewatching Steins Gate. I feel like that would be give me everything that this is giving me and more, because I don't really have a great desire for more Steins Gate story continuation. I different timeline. I don't really feel the need to have any of those things. And this is why there's often some sequels that I like just don't watch, because it's like I'm satisfied with where the story is and I don't really have any desire for there to be more of that story, because I feel like it was pretty well resolved and I'm not really especially curious about the alternate timelines, to be frank, or the what ifs. So yeah, that I'm still gonna be continuing it because I want to give the story a fair shot, because maybe the narrative will grab me. I want to give it a few episodes to let things boil up and get a little exciting before I decide for sure that I'm not gonna watch it. But I just wanted to add on to that. I'm not sure I'm gonna edit this in maybe just right after the clip, but yeah, future core app.